My name is Maggie Callahan. I'm 58 years old, married, and until recently, I thought I knew my family. But everything changed the moment I woke up from a coma and realized the people I trusted most had abandoned me while I lay helpless. Thank you for listening to my story of betrayal, resilience, and justice. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Are you on your commute, taking a break at work, or cozy at home? Share it in the comments so we can connect and swap stories like this together. If this story pulled you in, don't forget to subscribe, give it a like, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next real-life drama. Every share helps these stories reach someone who needs to hear them. Let's keep the conversation and the justice going. I woke up in a hospital bed with tubes in my arms and a machine beeping beside me. The fluorescent lights burned my eyes. My throat felt like sandpaper. I tried to move, but my body wouldn't respond properly. Then I saw him, my brother Kyle, standing at the foot of my bed with his arms crossed. His face wore an expression I'd never seen before. Cold. Calculating. "We thought you'd never wake up," he said flatly. No relief. No joy. Just those words hanging in the stale hospital air. My wife Brenda stood behind him, staring at her phone. My children, Owen and Vanessa, lingered near the door like strangers. None of them rushed to hug me. None of them cried. They just stood there, looking uncomfortable, like I'd interrupted something important. My heart shattered into a million pieces right there in that sterile room. The next morning, a nurse named Pauline changed my floor. She was gentle, humming softly as she worked. "You're lucky to be alive," she whispered, glancing toward the door. 3 months in a coma. Not many people come back from that. 3 months. The words echoed in my skull. I'd lost an entire season of my life. "Where's my family?" I croaked. Pauline's face tightened. They weren't here much, honey. "I'm sorry." She adjusted my pillow and leaned closer. "But there's something you should know. Your father's trust fund. It transferred to you when you turned 55. The lawyer tried to reach your family, but..." She trailed off, checking the hallway nervously. My mind raced. Dad's trust fund? I remembered him mentioning investments years ago, but I'd assumed everything went to Kyle. Later that afternoon, I overheard voices outside my room. The door wasn't fully closed, and sound carried through the gap. A man's voice, official and stern. "The estate is valued at approximately $850 million. My breath caught. $850 million? That couldn't be real. "Mrs. Callahan is the sole beneficiary," the voice continued. "Her brother has been attempting to gain power of attorney, but without her signature, he has no legal access." Kyle's voice cut through, sharp with frustration. "She's been unconscious for months. Someone needs to manage this. The law is clear, Mr. Preston. The funds remain frozen until she recovers or passes." Silence followed. Then footsteps, angry and quick, stomping away down the corridor. I lay there, heart pounding, understanding everything now. They hadn't abandoned me because I was sick. They'd abandoned me because I was alive. Physical therapy started 2 days later. Every movement felt like torture. My legs trembled when I tried to stand. My arms shook lifting a plastic cup. But rage fueled me. Every wobbling step, every painful stretch, I imagined Kyle's smug face. I pictured Brenda ignoring my calls, Owen making excuses, Vanessa rolling her eyes. They thought I was weak. Broken. Finished. The therapist, a kind woman named Ruby, praised every small victory. "You're doing great, Maggie. Most patients take twice as long." I gritted my teeth and pushed harder. I wasn't just recovering my body. I was sharpening my mind, planning every move. They expected a helpless old woman. They'd get someone very different. By the end of the week, I could walk with a cane. Ruby called it remarkable. I called it survival. The hospital discharged me on a gray Tuesday morning. Kyle arrived to pick me up, driving Dad's old Mercedes, the one I remembered from childhood trips. He didn't help me into the car. Didn't ask how I felt. Just drove in silence, jaw clenched. We pulled up to my house, the house Brenda and I bought 30 years ago, and I noticed new cars in the driveway. Expensive ones. Inside, the furniture had changed. Paintings I didn't recognize hung on the walls. Vanessa lounged on a leather sofa I'd never seen before, scrolling her phone. Owen sat at the dining table, spreadsheets covering the surface. Brenda emerged from the kitchen wearing designer clothes and diamond earrings. "You're finally home," she said, her voice flat. Not "I'm so glad." Not "we missed you." Just acknowledgement. I smiled weakly, playing along. Let them think I'm fragile, I thought. Let them believe I'm still the same. That evening, I sat quietly during dinner while my family talked around me. They discussed investments, property sales, vacation plans. Kyle mentioned something about liquidating assets and maximizing returns. Nobody asked about my recovery. Nobody asked if I needed anything. I picked at my food, nodding occasionally, watching them like a scientist studying specimens. Then Owen said something that made my blood run cold. "Once Mom signs the medical power of attorney, we can move forward with everything." Kyle shot him a warning look. Too late. I'd heard it. They were planning to have me declared mentally incompetent. Strip away my control. Take everything while I was still breathing. I excused myself early, claiming exhaustion. In my bedroom, I locked the door and opened my laptop. Time to do some research. I spent the next 3 days digging through legal documents online. Dad's trust was complex. Offshore accounts, real estate holdings, investment portfolios spanning 6 countries. But one clause jumped out at me, buried in page 47. In the event of attempted fraud or coercion against the primary beneficiary, all assets shall be immediately frozen pending legal investigation. Dad had anticipated this. He'd built in protections. I also discovered that Kyle had filed preliminary paperwork claiming I was incapable of managing my affairs. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks away. My hands trembled as I read. They were moving fast, assuming I wouldn't notice or couldn't stop them. I picked up my phone and dialed the number listed for Dad's attorney. A man answered on the 3rd ring. "Harrison Wolfe speaking." "Mr. Wolfe, this is Maggie Callahan. I believe we need to talk." Harrison Wolfe arrived at my house the next morning, carrying a leather briefcase and wearing a sharp gray suit. I met him in the backyard garden, away from prying eyes. "Your father was my closest friend," he said, settling into a patio chair. "He made me promise to protect you if anything happened to him. I failed when you were in the coma, and I apologize." I shook my head. "You're here now. That's what matters." He opened his briefcase and pulled out thick folders. "Your brother has been aggressive. He's tried multiple legal approaches to access the trust. So far, I've blocked everything, but he's persistent. What are my options?" Harrison smiled. "Many. But first, we need to secure your legal standing. I've prepared documents affirming your mental competence. We'll need witnesses, medical evaluations, and sworn statements. Then we go on the offensive." The following week, I underwent psychiatric evaluation. Dr. Reynolds, a stern woman with kind eyes, asked me hundreds of questions. She tested my memory, reasoning, and emotional stability. "You're performing exceptionally well for someone who just emerged from a coma," she said, making notes. "I see no evidence of cognitive impairment whatsoever." Her official report demolished Kyle's claims. Harrison filed it with the court immediately, along with a motion to dismiss Kyle's petition. But we didn't stop there. Harrison also filed a countersuit, alleging attempted fraud and financial manipulation. "Now he's on defense," Harrison explained over the phone. "He'll panic. Panicked people make mistakes." Sure enough, Kyle called that evening, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "What the hell are you doing, Maggie?" I kept my voice calm. "Protecting what's mine, Kyle. What Dad left me. You can't manage that kind of money. You'll lose everything. Maybe. But it's my choice to make." Silence. Then he hung up. At the next family dinner, the atmosphere had changed. Kyle watched me like a hawk. Brenda asked pointed questions about my plans. Owen and Vanessa exchanged nervous glances. They knew something had shifted. I played my part perfectly, eating slowly, speaking softly, acting confused occasionally. "I'm still recovering," I said when Kyle pressed about the legal filings. "Harrison is just helping me understand everything." "Harrison's a snake," Kyle snapped. Brenda put her hand on his arm, warning him to calm down. But I saw the cracks forming. Kyle had always been impulsive, quick to anger. That would be his downfall. After dinner, I overheard Owen and Vanessa arguing in the kitchen. "This is your fault," Vanessa hissed. "You said she'd just sign everything. How was I supposed to know she'd wake up fighting?" They were turning on each other. "Perfect." Harrison called with news. "I've been digging into Kyle's finances. He's overextended, mortgages, business loans, credit card debt. He desperately needs that trust fund." I wasn't surprised. Kyle had always lived beyond his means. "There's more," Harrison continued. "He's been in contact with an investment firm called Blackstone Holdings. They specialize in hostile acquisitions. If he'd gotten power of attorney, he planned to sell off your father's companies immediately." Anger flared in my chest. Dad had built those companies from nothing. They employed thousands of people. Kyle would have destroyed everything for quick cash. "Can we stop him?" "Already done. I've alerted the boards of directors. They're implementing safeguards as we speak." "But Maggie, this is going to get uglier. Kyle won't back down easily." "Neither will I." The line went quiet for a moment. Then Harrison chuckled. "Your father would be proud." Kyle showed up unannounced the next afternoon, pushing past me into the house. "We need to talk," he demanded, pacing the living room. "This is ridiculous. You're being paranoid and vindictive." I sat down calmly. "I'm being careful. You're tearing this family apart." He spun to face me, eyes blazing. "Dad would have wanted us to work together. Dad wanted me to have the trust, Kyle. Not you. Not us. Me." His face flushed red. "You don't deserve it. You never worked for it. You married some woman and played house while I built my career." There it was, the real reason for his anger. Jealousy. Resentment festering for decades. "The will is clear," I said quietly. "This isn't about what you think is fair. This is about honoring Dad's wishes." Kyle leaned close, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "You're going to regret this, Maggie. I promise you that." Then he stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Brenda confronted me that night in our bedroom. "You're making Kyle look like a fool," she said, her voice cold. "He's your brother. He tried to steal from me while I was unconscious. He was trying to help. He was trying to help himself." She shook her head, frustration evident. "I don't even recognize you anymore. This money has changed you." I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I'd married 35 years ago seemed like a stranger now. Had she always been this way? Or had I been too blind to see? "The money didn't change me, Brenda. It revealed everyone else." She turned away, grabbing her pillow. "I'm sleeping in the guest room." After she left, I sat alone in the darkness, feeling the weight of isolation. But loneliness was better than betrayal. I'd survived this. I'd survived worse. Harrison arranged a meeting with the family company boards. I attended via video conference, still playing the recovering invalid. Kyle had no idea I was involved. The CEOs presented evidence of Kyle's attempted interference, emails demanding immediate asset sales, threatening calls, unauthorized contact with competitors. One executive, a sharp woman named Victoria, spoke directly to the camera. "Mrs. Callahan, your father trusted us to protect his legacy. We stand with you completely." The boards voted unanimously to block any transactions not personally approved by me. Kyle's access was restricted to basic information only. When he found out, he called Harrison's office screaming. The secretary had to hang up on him. That evening, Owen came to see me. He looked exhausted, guilt written across his face. "Mom, I'm sorry. I got caught up in Uncle Kyle's plans. I didn't think about what it meant for you." It was the first genuine apology I'd received. I hugged him tight. The preliminary hearing arrived on a crisp autumn morning. Harrison met me at the courthouse steps. "Remember, stay calm. Answer questions directly. Don't let Kyle provoke you." Inside the courtroom, Kyle sat with his attorney, a slick man in an expensive suit. His lawyer argued that I was emotionally unstable, making irrational decisions, still suffering effects from the coma. Dr. Reynolds testified on my behalf, presenting her evaluation. "Mrs. Callahan demonstrates complete mental clarity. Her decision-making is sound, logical, and entirely appropriate given the circumstances." Kyle's lawyer tried to trip me up during cross-examination. Isn't it true you've cut off family members financially? I've protected assets from unauthorized access, I replied calmly. That's different from cutting people off. Aren't you being vindictive because of perceived slights? I'm being responsible because of documented fraud attempts. The judge finally cut him off. I've heard enough. Petition denied. Mrs. Callahan retains full legal control. Kyle's face turned purple with rage. Word spread quickly through our social circle. I received calls from old friends, many shocked by what had happened. Some took my side immediately. Others seemed hesitant, trying to stay neutral. I didn't blame them. Kyle had always been charismatic, good at spinning stories. But truth had a way of surfacing. Someone leaked details of Kyle's debt to the local business community. Suddenly, his reputation took a hit. Associates who'd respected him began distancing themselves. His business partners grew nervous. One afternoon, I received a call from Victoria, the CEO. Mrs. Callahan, I wanted you to know, Kyle approached me privately, offering to sell insider information about company mergers if I helped him access funds. I closed my eyes, disgusted. Thank you for telling me. He's desperate. Desperate people are dangerous. Please be careful. That night, I hired private security. If Kyle was willing to sell company secrets, what else might he do? Vanessa visited unexpectedly, tears streaming down her face. Mom, Uncle Kyle told me something terrible. He said if you die, he inherits everything. That you changed the will to cut us out completely. I pulled her into my arms. That's a lie, sweetheart. Your uncle is trying to manipulate you. But he showed me documents, forged documents. Harrison can show you the real will. You and Owen inherit substantial amounts. Kyle gets nothing unless specific conditions are met. The relief on her face was visible. I was so scared. He made it sound like you hated us. I could never hate you. I'm protecting you from someone who only cares about money. We spent the evening talking, really talking for the first time since I woke up. She apologized for her coldness, explaining how Kyle had poisoned her mind with lies. He said you were using the coma to manipulate everyone, she confessed. That you were faking being sick to control us. The depths of Kyle's manipulation stunned me. But at least now, my children were seeing the truth. I decided it was time to meet with Dad's old business partners. Harrison arranged a private dinner at an exclusive restaurant. 3 men arrived, Wesley, Marcus, and Frank, all in their 70s, all sharp as ever. Your father was brilliant, Wesley said, raising his glass. He predicted Kyle would be a problem. That's why he structured the trust so carefully. Marcus nodded. Joseph told us if anything happened to him, we should watch over you. We failed during your coma. We're sorry. You're here now, I assured them. That's what matters. Frank leaned forward. We've been monitoring Kyle's activities. He's made contact with some unsavory characters, people who specialize in legal loopholes and aggressive tactics. You need to be ready for anything. They offered to serve as informal advisors, helping me navigate the business world I'd never been part of. I accepted gratefully. With their support, Kyle's options narrowed further. The annual company board meeting loomed, a public event where major decisions were announced. Kyle had been lobbying board members privately, trying to undermine my authority. Harrison suggested I attend in person. Show them you're strong, capable, in control. The night before, I barely slept. Years of staying in the background, letting others lead, all of that had to change now. I arrived at the corporate headquarters wearing a navy suit, hairstyled, makeup perfect. Employees I'd never met greeted me warmly. Mrs. Callahan, we're so glad you've recovered. The boardroom was impressive. Floor-to-ceiling windows, mahogany table, leather chairs. Kyle sat near the head of the table, confident until he saw me. His face went white. The meeting began. Reports were presented, financials reviewed. Then the chairman, an elderly man named Theodore, addressed the room. We have one final matter. Some rumors need addressing regarding company ownership and management. He gestured to me. Mrs. Callahan, would you like to speak? I stood slowly, feeling every eye in the room focus on me. My voice was steady. My father built these companies through hard work, integrity, and careful planning. He entrusted them to me because he knew I would honor his legacy, not exploit it. I pulled out documents Harrison had prepared. Some individuals have attempted to manipulate this transition for personal gain. They've lied, forged documents, and threatened legal action. This ends today. I distributed copies of everything. Kyle's debt records, his communications with Blackstone Holdings, his attempted bribes. The board members' faces darkened as they read. Kyle stood abruptly. This is slander. You can't prove any of this. Actually, Harrison said from the doorway, every document is verified, including the recordings of your phone calls attempting to sell proprietary information. Kyle's lawyer, sitting beside him, went pale. The chairman's voice cut through the tension. Mr. Preston, you're hereby removed from all advisory positions. Security will escort you out. Kyle looked around desperately, but found no allies. As guards approached, he pointed at me. You'll regret this, Maggie. Mark my words. Then he was gone. The aftermath was swift. Kyle's business collapsed within weeks. Creditors demanding payment, partners severing ties, clients abandoning ship. I felt no satisfaction, only sadness. He'd brought this on himself, but he was still my brother. The boy I'd played with as a child. The teenager who'd taught me to ride a bike. Where had that person gone? Brenda filed for divorce. I didn't fight it. Our marriage had been dead long before the coma. We'd just been too comfortable to admit it. Owen and Vanessa stayed close, rebuilding trust slowly. They moved out of the house, got their own apartments, started living independently. I was proud of them. Meanwhile, I dove into learning everything about Dad's empire. Wesley, Marcus, and Frank became my teachers, explaining markets, investments, strategies. Turned out, I had a knack for it. Dad's instincts had been right. 6 months after the board meeting, Kyle showed up at my door. He looked terrible. Weight loss, wrinkled clothes, defeat in his eyes. Can we talk? He asked quietly. I let him in. We sat in the living room where we'd fought so many times. I'm sorry, he said, voice breaking. I was jealous. Angry. Dad always favored you, and I couldn't handle it. Dad loved us both, Kyle. No. He loved you. He tolerated me. Tears streamed down his face. I ruined everything trying to prove I was worthy. I felt my own eyes water. You were always worthy. You just couldn't see it. We talked for hours. Really talked for the first time in decades. I couldn't forgive everything immediately, but I could start the process. Before he left, I wrote him a check. Pay off your debts. Start fresh. But Kyle, if you ever try to manipulate me or my children again, this is over forever. He nodded, accepting the boundary. It wasn't reconciliation exactly, but it was a beginning. I established a foundation in Dad's name, scholarships for underprivileged students, funding for small businesses, support for medical research. The money meant nothing sitting in accounts. It needed purpose. Vanessa joined the foundation board, using her marketing skills to promote our initiatives. Owen handled financial oversight, proving he'd learned from past mistakes. Together, we channeled Dad's legacy into something meaningful. I also started mentoring young women in business, sharing lessons learned the hard way. Many had been overlooked, underestimated, pushed aside. I understood that feeling. One evening, a young entrepreneur named Ruby, the same Ruby who'd been my physical therapist, came to me with a business plan. Her ideas were brilliant. I funded her startup. 6 months later, it was thriving. You believed in me when no one else would, she said, tears in her eyes. Just paying it forward, I replied. This was what the money was for. A year after waking from the coma, I stood at Dad's grave. The autumn leaves crunched under my feet. I hope I'm making you proud, I whispered. It wasn't easy, and I made mistakes. But I'm trying. The wind rustled through the trees, and for a moment, I swore I felt his presence. Approving. Peaceful. I learned so much about family, loyalty, strength, forgiveness. About the difference between being nice and being respected. About standing firm when everyone expects you to fold. Kyle and I maintained cautious contact. He was rebuilding his life slowly, attending therapy, making amends. It would take years to fully heal our relationship, if ever. But the door was open. Owen got engaged to a wonderful woman named Sophie. Vanessa started a nonprofit helping coma survivors and their families. Both were thriving, happy, independent. As for me, I discovered I enjoyed running businesses, making strategic decisions, shaping the future. I was good at it. Really good. Dad had seen something in me I'd never seen in myself. Tonight, I sit in Dad's old office, looking at family photos on the wall. There's one of Kyle and me as children, grinning in the summer sun. Innocent. Happy. Unaware of what life would bring. I've learned that money reveals character. It doesn't create it. The people who stood by me did so because of who I am, not what I have. The ones who betrayed me would have done so regardless. The $850 million scared me at first. Now I see it as responsibility, opportunity, and power to create change. I'm not the same woman who woke up in that hospital bed. I'm stronger, wiser, more aware. Kyle taught me that family isn't automatic. It's earned through loyalty and respect. Brenda taught me that love requires honesty and shared values. Owen and Vanessa taught me that forgiveness is possible when people genuinely change. And Dad, wherever he is, taught me the most important lesson of all. Trust your instincts, protect what matters, and never let anyone convince you you're less than you are. I'm Maggie Callahan. I'm 58 years old. And I'm just getting started.